Ryan's Office Revenge. After 18 years of 85-hour weeks, helping save our automotive plant $35 million in the best quarterly performance in 12 years, my manager Steven Martinez slid a $10 coffee shop gift card across my desk like he was handing me the keys to a new truck. On the back, in his careful handwriting, he'd written, "Hard work pays off in the end," with an exclamation point and everything. I'm Richard Thompson, 49 years old, and that little plastic card was about to cost Steven a whole lot more than he ever expected. I stared at that gift card for maybe 5 seconds. Long enough to remember the night I slept in my office because we were troubleshooting a production line failure that could have shut down the entire plant. Long enough to see the exhausted faces of my engineering team on yet another weekend video call. Then I smiled, not because I appreciated the gesture, but because Steven had just handed me exactly what I needed. "You're absolutely right," I said, holding up the card. "Hard work really does pay off." He relaxed completely, missing the edge in my voice. "I knew you'd get it, Richard. It's not always about the paycheck. It's about being part of something bigger." "Oh, trust me," I replied. "I'm feeling very connected to something bigger right now." He laughed, tapped my desk twice, and walked out, already mentally checking off his employee recognition task for the week. As soon as his footsteps faded, I opened my laptop and pulled up the Q3 engineering report, the one I'd spent 3 weeks building, testing, and perfecting. $35 million in cost savings, 15% efficiency improvement, 0 safety incidents for 18 consecutive months, all packaged in a presentation that made our plant look like a model operation. Let me back up and explain how I got to this point. How I became the guy calculating 8-figure cost savings with bloodshot eyes and a serious caffeine problem. Why a $10 gift card was the thing that finally broke me. I started at Morrison Automotive Solutions 18 years ago as a junior engineer, fresh out of my master's program. The plant manufactured transmission components, and I was hungry to prove myself. Back then, the work was challenging, the hours were reasonable, and my first supervisor, Patricia Wilson, actually gave a damn about developing her people. Patricia taught me everything about automotive engineering that they don't cover in textbooks. How to troubleshoot production issues at 2 a.m. when the line supervisors are panicking. How to design cost-effective solutions that actually work on the factory floor. How to manage relationships with suppliers who think every problem can be solved by throwing money at it. For 12 years under Patricia's leadership, the job was demanding but fair. We worked hard during model year changes and product launches. We stayed late when critical deadlines demanded it. But Patricia had our backs when it mattered. She pushed back against impossible timelines. She told upper management when their expectations were complete fantasy. Most importantly, she made sure our contributions got recognized properly. Those were good years. I was learning, growing, building something. My wife Linda and I bought our house during that time. Our son Timothy was born when I was 30, then Jennifer came along 3 years later. I was working hard, but I was home for dinner most nights. I helped with homework. I coached Timothy's Little League team for 4 seasons. Then 6 years ago, Patricia got promoted to Regional Engineering Director. Good for her, she deserved it. But her replacement was Steven Martinez, 38 years old, MBA from a decent program, 5 years at a consulting firm, 2 years as a project manager at a supplier that got bought out after missing too many delivery commitments. Steven's first team meeting was full of buzzwords about operational excellence and lean methodology and data-driven decision-making. He talked about bringing fresh perspectives to automotive engineering. He didn't talk about workload, management. He didn't ask a single question about how long our current processes actually took or what resources we needed to do them properly. Look, I get it. New guy wants to make his mark. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I walked him through our engineering systems, explained the relationships with production teams, showed him where the potential problems were buried. Quality issues that sales had promised to customers, but engineering hadn't signed off on. Timeline commitments that looked good on paper, but ignored the realities of prototype testing and validation. He listened, took notes, asked reasonable questions. Then he started implementing changes. The first warning sign was the Monday morning engineering dashboard. Just a quick snapshot, he said. Key performance indicators, week-over-week trends, nothing too complex. Where's that data coming from? I asked. We'll pull from existing reports, he said. Shouldn't be too heavy a lift. Those reports are structured for monthly reviews, I explained. Someone will have to manually extract metrics, validate calculations, and reconcile discrepancies every single week. He waved that off like I'd mentioned a minor formatting issue. We'll work out the process. This is critical for leadership visibility. Critical for leadership visibility. Those 4 words cost me 12 hours every weekend for the next 6 years. That's when things started going wrong. Not all at once, but slowly, like water damage that you don't notice until the ceiling caves in. Our workload exploded. Monthly engineering reviews, unchanged. Quarterly business planning with expanded scenario modeling. Weekly dashboards consuming my Sundays. Constant requests for analysis because executives now expected polished presentations for every minor decision. When one of our senior engineers left for a better opportunity at Ford, we didn't backfill the position. We need to stay lean, Stephen told us. This will be excellent for everyone's growth. Translation, everyone here needs to do 1.3 jobs indefinitely. The first year under Stephen, I averaged about 55 hours per week. Challenging, but manageable with Linda and the kids. By year 3, it had crept up to 70. This past quarter, we hit what I can only call completely screwed up territory. 85-hour weeks for 4 consecutive months. You don't notice the shift at first. You just stay a little later one evening. Come in a little earlier the next morning. Work through lunch just today. Take calls from home just this once. Then suddenly you realize you can't remember the last time you had dinner with your family during the week. Your son Timothy's been sending you texts about his engineering classes at State, and you've been too tired to respond thoughtfully. Your daughter Jennifer stopped asking you to help with her calculus homework because you're never home before 9 p.m. During that record-breaking quarter, my typical day started at 6 a.m. checking overnight emails from our suppliers in Mexico. I'd get to the plant by 7, work until 8:30 most nights, later when we had critical issues. Grab whatever was fastest from the vending machine, usually eaten one-handed while reviewing test data or production reports. Linda started leaving my dinner in the microwave with notes. Heated this up twice already. Hope you can eat it before midnight. Love you. The mortgage payment is $2,800 a month. Timothy's tuition at State is $15,000 a semester. Jennifer's looking at colleges next year, and they're all talking numbers that make my head spin. We've got maybe $40,000 in savings, which sounds like a lot, until you realize that covers about 18 months of expenses if something goes wrong. You can't just walk away from a job when you're carrying that kind of load. But here's the thing that really got to me. The work itself still mattered. I genuinely enjoyed the technical challenges. I took real pride in designing solutions that improved both quality and cost performance. I got a kick out of mentoring younger engineers and watching them figure things out. That pride became dangerous, though. When you care about doing good work, people will keep piling more on until you break. My breaking point wasn't professional. It was physical. One night at 2:15 a.m., I woke up with my heart hammering like I'd just run a marathon. Sat up too fast and the room spun. Cold sweat, hands shaking. For about a minute, I thought I might be having a heart attack. I'm 49 years old, I thought. This is ridiculous. I sat there counting heartbeats, trying to slow my breathing. Eventually, it calmed down. Stress, I told myself. Too much caffeine. Too many hours staring at screens. Then I did something really stupid. I got out of bed, opened my laptop, and went back to work because the Q3 engineering summary wasn't finished, and Charles Anderson wanted additional analysis on our supplier cost reduction initiatives. That night should have been my wake-up call. It wasn't. The real wake-up call looked like a $10 coffee card with motivational handwriting. We achieved that $35 million cost savings through smart engineering and pure stubbornness. New supplier partnerships I'd negotiated over 6 months. Production line improvements that required 3 months of validation testing. Quality initiatives that reduced warranty claims by 22%. Those weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. That was 6 months of 12-hour days, weekend conference calls with suppliers in 3 different time zones, and more technical documentation than I'd written in my entire career. I personally reviewed every cost calculation, validated every efficiency claim, and signed off on every process change. In the final week of the quarter, I slept maybe 20 hours total. I remember sitting in the conference room at 1 a.m., staring at test data that wouldn't reconcile, thinking if I disappeared right now, would anyone notice until Monday morning? But we pulled it off. The numbers looked phenomenal. Charles Anderson sent a company-wide email full of exclamation points about historic achievement and game-changing performance. Generic thanks to every team member who contributed to this success. No names mentioned. No specific recognition. Just blanket appreciation that covered everyone and recognized nobody. The next morning, there was a brief celebration in the break room. Someone had ordered donuts and hung a banner reading Q3 Champions. Stephen gave a 4-minute speech about momentum and continuous improvement. Charles said a few words about market positioning. Then people grabbed sugar and went back to their desks. No bonus announcements, no promotion discussions, just donuts and a banner. 3 days later, Stephen called me into his office. I walked in, running on coffee fumes, and saw them immediately. A small stack of gift cards on his desk, company logo, coffee shop branding. "Richard," he said, smiling like he was about to present me with an award. "I wanted to personally recognize your contribution this quarter. None of this would have been possible without your dedication and expertise." He picked up one of the cards and uncapped a blue pen. I watched him write in neat handwriting. "Hard work pays off in the end." Then he added his initials. He slid the card toward me. $10 toward any purchase at Coffee Corner locations. $10. Not even enough to cover lunch. Maybe a sandwich without coffee. Maybe half of what I spent on gas driving to work each day. I looked up at him. He was genuinely smiling. Not mocking, not malicious, just completely clueless. In his mind, this was thoughtful leadership. "These are just small tokens," he said, gesturing to the stack. "We're giving them to select individuals who really went above and beyond." I imagined him handing these out like participation trophies while the company celebrated record profits built on people working themselves into the ground. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. Not for the card, but for showing me exactly what was going on here. "You're absolutely right," I said, letting a slow smile spread across my face. "Hard work really does pay off." He relaxed completely. "I knew you'd understand. You have such a great attitude, Richard. That's exactly why you'll continue succeeding here." He had no idea how far I was about to take that attitude. I walked back to my desk, placed the gift card beside my keyboard, and opened the Q3 engineering report. I looked at the $35 million figure in the executive summary. Then I looked at the $10 amount on the card. For the first time in months, I laughed. Not bitter or exhausted, but genuinely amazed. My coworker Paul glanced over with raised eyebrows. "You okay?" he asked. "Perfect," I said. "I'm absolutely perfect. Something just clicked for me right then. The part of me that had been desperately hoping hard work and excellence would eventually get recognized just gave up completely. I turned on my desktop scanner, fed the gift card through carefully. Perfect digital image appeared on my monitor. I dragged it next to the cost savings report, lined them up precisely, and created a comparison slide. Q3 value exchange, organizational achievement versus individual recognition. I didn't need commentary. The image said everything. I opened a new email. There are moments when you know you're crossing a line you can't uncross. Hitting send was going to be one of them. 2. Charles Anderson, Susan Garcia, Plant Management Team, CC. Stephen Martinez, Subject, Q3, Results and Career Transition. Dear Leadership Team, attached you will find 2 images that together show you exactly how my Q3 went. On the left, our engineering team's 35 million cost reduction achievement. On the right, the recognition I received for 85-hour weeks, helping deliver our plant's best quarter in 12 years. This email isn't angry. I'm just being clear. Effective 2 weeks from today, I'm resigning from my position as Senior Engineering Manager. I'll document everything, thoroughly, make sure projects get handed off properly, and help however I can during the transition. I care about the work and the people I've been lucky enough to work with, but this quarter showed me something I can't ignore anymore. The way this organization values effort, sacrifice, and expertise doesn't match up with how I plan to spend my remaining career years. Thanks for the opportunities over 18 years. I hope you look at the attached images the way I intended. An honest picture of what's really going on here that should probably change. Regards, Richard Thompson. I attached the comparison image, stared at the send button for about 2 seconds, then clicked. 4:17 p.m. The email flew out of my inbox and the reactions started immediately. My internal messaging system lit up like a Christmas tree. Paul from my team. Richard, what the hell did you just do? Someone from quality control I barely knew. Dude, that's legendary. A message from Jennifer in purchasing. We're all talking about your email. Half the plant has seen it already. My phone started buzzing on the desk. Stephen's extension. Then another call. Then his cell number. I let them all go to voicemail. At 4:28, I shut down my laptop, cleared out my desk drawers. Family-friendly photos of Linda and the kids. The emergency jacket I kept for when the plant got cold. Reading glasses I'd bought after too many late nights wrecked my vision. 23 years of accumulated stuff that suddenly looked pretty meaningless. I dropped my security badge on the keyboard and started walking toward the exit. People were watching as I made my way down the aisle between workstations. Some looked shocked. Some looked like they wanted to high-five me. Some looked like they'd just witnessed the ending of a movie they hadn't realized they were watching. I didn't say goodbye. Not because I didn't care about these people, but because I knew if I stopped, someone would try to talk me out of it. Let's think about this. Maybe we can work something out. They'll probably adjust your compensation. They'd had 18 years to work something out. They'd just shown me their best offer was a $10 gift card. I stepped into the elevator feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Pure relief. The doors closed, and I leaned against the wall and took the first deep breath I'd taken in months. The lobby felt different on the way out. Same industrial carpet, same motivational posters about safety and excellence, same reception desk. But for the first time in 18 years, I wasn't mentally calculating the next project deadline while walking through it. I was leaving permanently. I crossed the parking lot in the late afternoon sun, heading for my truck. October air was crisp, felt good after all those hours under fluorescent lights. I hit the unlock button, heard the chirp, reached for the door handle. That's when I heard it. Richard! Stephen's voice, sharp with panic. Dress shoes hitting asphalt. I turned around, turned. Slowly. He was half running, half stumbling between parked cars. His usually perfect appearance was slightly messed up. Hair out of place, tie askew. He looked less like the polished manager from his presentations, and more like someone whose world had just gotten turned upside down. "We need to talk," he said, slightly out of breath. "About what?" I asked calmly. "Why would you send that email? Do you understand what you just did? You embarrassed me in front of the entire management team. I sent an accurate picture of my experience," I said. "How it looks is up to whoever's reading it." "That's not fair," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. "The gift card was just a gesture. You know how budget constraints work. We can't just hand out bonuses every quarter." "Stephen," I said, "I didn't ask for a bonus. Then what do you want?" What did I want? I thought about those 85-hour weeks, the panic attack at 2 a.m., missing Timothy's engineering presentations at school, Jennifer asking her mom for homework help because Dad was never around. I wanted a manager who noticed when someone was working 85-hour weeks before they had to deliver record-breaking results to get any recognition at all. I wanted someone in your position who would push back when executives treated people like adjustable expense lines in a spreadsheet. He crossed his arms defensively. "You think I don't push back? You have no idea what kind of pressure we get from the executive level. The targets come from above. I don't set them. I have to deliver results with the staff I'm given." "And your solution," I said, "was to hand me a $10 gift card and write an inspirational message on it." "It was a gesture," he said again, like saying it twice would make it mean something different. "It was a message," I replied. Loud and clear. His phone buzzed. He glanced down reflexively, and I saw the notification preview from Charles Anderson. Subject line, "We need to discuss Richard's email immediately." "Look," he said, his tone shifting toward something closer to pleading. "I talked to HR after your email. We can look at a title change, maybe senior principal engineer, and a compensation adjustment, something in the range of 15%. It's not finalized yet, but I'm not negotiating," I said. He blinked. "What?" "I'm not negotiating. I'm leaving. You can't just walk away from 18 years. Think about your career path. Think about your professional references." "Stephen," I said, "I've got 18 years of references and an email trail where Charles personally thanked me for the cost reduction projects that enabled our strongest quarter in plant history. I think my references will survive." "You won't find another company like Morrison," he said, as if this was somehow a selling point. "That's exactly the idea," I replied. We stood there in the parking lot, cold October wind cutting between the vehicles. He was still in manager mode, trying to negotiate, looking for angles. I was done. "You're making a serious mistake," he said finally, grasping for some last bit of control. "Maybe," I said, "but it's my mistake to make. And after this year, I'd rather risk being unemployed than continue being systematically screwed over." "You think this is about being screwed over? This is business. It's numbers and margins and competitive positioning." "That's exactly what's wrong," I said. "You forgot there are actual people attached to those numbers, people with families and lives outside of quarterly targets." His phone buzzed again. Another message from upstairs. His professional mask slipped completely for just a second, and I could see it clearly. A guy who was about to have a very uncomfortable conversation with his boss about why his star engineer just sent a comparison image of organizational achievement versus individual recognition to the entire management team. "At least come back inside and talk to them," he said. "There's room for improvement if you just give us a chance." "No," I said simply. "Richard, be reasonable." "Stephen," I said quietly, "this is me being reasonable for the first time in a very long time." His face flushed. You really think one email and a scanned gift card are going to change anything around here? No, I said. I think they showed everyone exactly what's been going on all along. I opened my truck door and got in. As I backed out of the parking spot, I could see Stephen in my rearview mirror, standing alone between rows of vehicles with his phone buzzing in his hand, watching someone drive away who was no longer his problem to manage. The drive home felt surreal. Like I was leaving behind not just a job, but an entire version of myself I didn't want to be anymore. That first night, I slept 9 hours straight. No 2 a.m. heart pounding. No dreams about production schedules or supplier issues. Just deep, uninterrupted sleep. The next morning, I woke up at 8:15. Actual sunlight coming through the bedroom windows. Real quiet in the house. Not the artificial silence you get when you're too tired to notice noise. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table instead of grabbing it on the way to my truck. Called my son Timothy, who answered on the second ring. Dad? Are you okay? You never call during work hours. I'm not at work, I said. I quit yesterday. We talked for an hour about engineering, about his classes, about the email, about everything I'd been too exhausted to discuss properly for months. When I finished explaining what happened, he was quiet for a few seconds. I'm proud of you, Dad, he said. Mom and I have been watching you disappear into that job for years. We were starting to think you'd forgotten you're allowed to have a life outside of work. Linda got home that evening and found me actually cooking dinner instead of reheating whatever she'd left in the microwave. So, she said, setting down her purse, I heard through the company wives network that you sent some kind of email that has everyone talking. Something like that, I said. She hugged me for a long time. Good, she said finally. That place was killing you? Within 2 weeks, I had interviews with 3 companies. Word travels fast in the automotive industry, especially when someone with 18 years of experience at a major plant suddenly becomes available. One was a rapidly growing electric vehicle startup that wanted someone with cost reduction experience. They promised revolutionary everything, but it looked like Morrison all over again with even less structure and longer hours. Another was a heavy equipment manufacturer looking for senior engineering leadership. Solid company, but the role would have meant relocating to Ohio, and Jennifer's got 1 more year of high school. The third was Aerospace Dynamics, a mid-sized company that makes components for commercial aircraft. During my final interview, I decided to tell the complete truth about burning out, about the 85-hour weeks, about the gift card incident. Their engineering director, a guy named Daniel Rodriguez, different Paul than my coworker, didn't look uncomfortable when I explained what happened. I did that same thing in my 30s at General Electric, he said. Learned the hard way that sustainable performance beats heroic effort every single time. If I'm paying you for 45 hours per week and consistently getting 75, I consider that a failure of my planning and resource allocation. What's your management philosophy? I asked directly. Work smart when it matters, he said. But if someone on my team is regularly working weekends just to keep up with normal responsibilities, then I've screwed up the workload planning, not them. They offered me the position a week later. Senior Engineering Manager, Propulsion Systems, salary 20% higher than Morrison, better benefits package, explicit written policies about work-life balance and overtime expectations. I've been there 8 months now. We still have intense periods. Certification deadlines, customer audits, new program launches. Sometimes I work 55 hours, occasionally 60 during critical phases, but it's the exception, not the standard operating procedure. And nobody has ever handed me a gift card and called it meaningful recognition. Paul from Morrison and I still meet for lunch once a month. He keeps me updated on what's happening at the plant. Remember that weekly dashboard? He asked during our last lunch. They've expanded it. Now it's a daily morning briefing called the Engineering Pulse Report. How's that working out for everyone? His expression said everything. "They've hired 6 new engineers in the past year," he said. "Average time before they quit is 5 months. One of them called the workload systematically broken in his exit interview. Did anything actually change after my email?" "They stopped giving out gift cards," he said, smiling slightly. "Now it's branded coffee mugs and motivational desk calendars." We both laughed, but then he got more serious. "HR did conduct a workplace culture survey after you left. Anonymous questions about workload, recognition, management effectiveness. Results were apparently pretty damaging." "How damaging?" "Damaging enough that Charles mentioned it in a plant-wide meeting. Damaging enough that they hired an outside consulting firm to assess engineering department culture and make recommendations." "Think anything will genuinely change?" "Maybe not immediately," he said. "But at least now they can't pretend they don't know there's a problem. Before your email they could say, 'We had no idea people felt this way.' You took away that excuse." 3 months after I left Morrison, I got a LinkedIn message from an engineer I didn't know personally, someone who worked at another plant in the company network. "I saw your email before you left Morrison. I've been with the company 11 years, averaging 70-hour weeks for the past 3. Today, I submitted my resignation. Thank you for showing me it was possible to leave with dignity. Thank you for making it clear we're allowed to expect better." That message reminded me why the whole thing mattered. When you speak up clearly, even when it's uncomfortable, you give other people permission to see their situations honestly. You show them the exit door exists, and walking through it is a legitimate choice. Here's what this whole experience taught me, and what anyone dealing with similar garbage needs to understand. If your body is sending you warning signals, pay attention. Heart racing at 2 a.m. isn't just stress. It's your entire system telling you that you're operating way beyond sustainable limits. Recognition without respect is just cheap theater. Gift cards, branded merchandise, motivational slogans, they're band-aids on deeper problems. Real respect shows up in reasonable workload, fair compensation, and honest communication about what's actually expected. You teach organizations how to value you by what you accept. By staying quiet, by accepting scraps and calling it professional development, you're reinforcing exactly the system that's grinding you down. You're not obligated to stay anywhere you're being punished for caring about quality work. Taking pride in doing things right is good. Letting that pride get used against you isn't. That $10 gift card was the best thing Steven Martinez ever gave me. Not because it meant anything, but because it was so perfectly crystallinely clear about what 18 years of dedication actually meant to Morrison Automotive Solutions. It showed me exactly what was going on, made it impossible to keep lying to myself about it, and gave me the perfect visual evidence to share with everyone else. $35 million in cost savings, 85-hour weeks, $10 gift card. That's the equation. That's the exchange rate. And once I saw it clearly, the decision became simple. I scanned the card, I sent the email, I walked out. Best choice I ever made. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to pretend that disrespect is acceptable just because it comes with a paycheck. Your worth isn't determined by what they're willing to give you. It's determined by what you're willing to accept.